Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to day 3 of Scientology, and I'm going to get straight to the point. L. Ron Hubbard is worse than a cult leader. He is far worse than a cult leader, and I'm going to explain this to you guys. I cannot believe what I have discovered. Like, as soon as I've done this, started this 21-day fast, guys, it's nuts. Like, everything that's happening, everything that I'm discovering is insane. Like, just today alone, I have enough stuff to tell you guys for the rest of the whole 22 days. But we're going to focus today on L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard. And I'm going to talk about the stuff that other people wouldn't talk about. Because a lot of the people out there, they talk about, the basic, this, that, that's the other. Great, it's good. Go and watch them because they give you lots of information. I'm going to tell you the stuff that I don't think anybody would say, because I don't think anybody is dedicated to the Lord who would talk about this as I am, right? And I wish there was more. And if there are, pull up, let's come together, let's talk about this. So here we go, guys. First things first, right? The reason why I'm saying I think he's worse than a cult leader is because I really, truly believe, right, what he has left and how well he has created it. It's like he has mastered the art of Satan, which is to take 99.9999999% of truth and have just a little of falseness in there, of a lie, that over time grows until you find yourself in total destruction. Just like in the Garden of Eden, right? Did God really say, right, well, the tree does look good. That's true, that the tree looks good. One to desire wisdom, well, it is called the tree of the knowledge of good wisdom. You guys know what I'm talking about. You've heard it enough times. Anyway, he has mastered it. This is why I now understand exactly why Scientology is where it's at and why it's continuing to grow and why they're so well, keeping everything so well. So I'm going to cover this. What we're going to start off with, guys, is the wildest thing of all time, especially after the video I made yesterday. Let me show you this, right? So I was watching an interview by Growing in Scientology. So this channel, the guy on this channel, his name is Adam. He escaped Scientology. He was born into Scientology when he was 4 years old. His mum joined Scientology and he left then 30 years later. So he makes a lot of videos talking about all of this stuff from the inside. Now, at the very start of this video today, I was like, okay, let's go and do some research. So I'd done some research online. I was looking at YouTube. I type in L. Ron Hubbard, and then this is what the first video comes up, says L. Ron Hubbard wants to make Zimbabwe the first Scientologist country. Zimbabwe, where I'm from, ladies and gentlemen. Zimbabwe, where I'm from, where my name Nyasha comes from, is the place he wanted to make the first Scientology country. So I was like, God, what is happening right now, right? And then on the screen, nothing else is happening. Just on the screen, on the first page, Adam had written on the screen, this interview was filmed in May 1966 in Rhodesia. Where's Rhodesia, ladies and gentlemen? Zimbabwe. Well, there's Northern Rhodesia, which is Zambia, and Southern Rhodesia, which is Zimbabwe. Am I getting the right way around? Also, I'm Zimbabwean and Zambian, so it doesn't matter. That's the thing. That's what's crazy about it. I'm Zimbabwean and Zambian. So anyways, so this is where this man was, of all of Scientology, having this interview in 1966, right? My grandma was born in 1940, so she was there when this guy was there. Listen to what he says. He says, L. Ron Hubbard believed he could turn Rhodesia into the first Scientology country, partly because he believed he had been Cecil Rhodes in his previous life. Now, if you guys don't know who Cecil Rhodes is, I do. You know why? Because that's where Rhodesia comes from. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Cecil Rhodes. So this is what I want you guys to keep in mind here. L. Ron Hubbard, father of Scientology, is saying he believes he had been Cecil Rhodes in a previous life. Now, when this previous life concept in Scientology, hold that thought, because we're going to have to do a lot of work to get to that, and it's not going to be in this video. It's probably going to be like in 2 weeks at this rate we're going. Otherwise, I'd have to upload like literally 50 videos today, right? And I'm not trying to overload you guys. Anyway, so 3 videos is already a lot. So, Anyways, let's talk about Cecil Rhodes. Okay, let's talk about Cecil Rhodes. This is the man he believes he was in his past life. Cecil Rhodes, born 5th of July, 1853, right? And the area where Cecil Rhodes is born, guess what was another interesting coinkadinkly? 20 minutes drive from where I live right now. where I grew up. 20, 30 minutes drive. So I'm just like, what is going on? Anyways, died in 26 March 1902. His father was a reverend. Are we surprised? Are we surprised once again? I'm like, God, what is going on? I'm talking about the Big Bang. We're talking about the man who proved that the universe is expanding, not static, like even Albert Einstein thought. What is he? A Catholic priest and a scientist. Okay, L. Hubbard. What does he end up going to study at university? Chemistry and maths. What did he come from? His father was a reverend, or rather a vicar. Sorry, this is Cecil we're talking about right now. Anyway, oh my gosh. So I'm just like, God, what is all these connections? Anyway, Cecil. He is an organizer of De Beers, right? De Beers is one of the reasons, guys, this is where you're going to realize that it's crazy that the Lord would be talking to me of all people in the world about this stuff, right? This company mines diamonds in Zimbabwe. And in fact, where is it that it says this? In my research. In fact, oh guys, it's going to get juicy. Just you wait. In fact, oh yes, and it controlled the global trade of diamonds until recently, as in until like the last 10 years or so, right? Since just before 2015. So can you guys imagine this? And I'll tell you why this is crazy for me, because one of the reasons I have no desire to live in Zimbabwe at this point in time is because I'm sick of the Zimbabwean people just letting people run rampant crazy in the country, right? Doing all this stuff with the diamonds. You're there poor while there's other people monopolizing off of the things that God put in the land that he gave to his people, to these people, and you're just sitting there doing nothing about it. So I'm just like, you know what? I can't be around victimhood. So that's my thing. So this is why this is crazy to me. And also because yesterday I was talking about how there's all these figures that exist that have been in Zimbabwe. I was saying this. I was literally saying this yesterday. Sound like a crazy person. Yeah, I'm not sounding so crazy now, am I? Because this is what I saw only today. Anyways, so on top of the fact that he's an organizer of De Beers, right? Mines Limited, 1888. So this isn't a long time ago, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't a long time ago. And he was Prime Minister of the Cape Colonies from 1890 to 96. So this is, again, the Cape Colonies being, what do you call it? We're talking about Cecil Rhodes. The man that L. Ron Hubbard reckons he is the reincarnate, right? Or he was in his previous life, right? Okay, so he was the Prime Minister of Cape Colonies, so that's all of like, you know, Rhodesia, and then I think that also includes like South Africa, etc., etc. Not to mention the fact, let's remember the fact that also in South Africa, apartheid only ended in 1991. Let's not even get into that too much, right? Okay, so let's continue now. So, what did I include here? So the way he got into diamond mining, by the way, anyways, was he was picking cotton, if you can imagine, in Natal, but moved to diamond mining and eventually became the dominant force. So again, I'm not going to comment actually on this as far as where I come from and what my opinion is about this. I'm not going to comment about this in this video, but I do have very specific thoughts about this. Okay, so he was born, like I said, son of a vicar, and he'd moved to Africa in the first place because he was ill. He was of ill health, and he found, of course he freaking did, that going to Africa, that helped his ill health. Okay, fine. Are we surprised? No, we're not. Okay, so here is some of the things that Cecil Rhodes actually said, and this is according to the BBC now. This stuff that I'm saying now is from the BBC, and I actually respect the BBC every now and then because they every now and then do address certain things, also because the BBC is not owned by anybody in the England anyway, so that's another thing. If you guys didn't know, like I've made videos, there's a whole media playlist on my YouTube channel where I talk about how you guys should have, there's a lot of, if you've joined my channel in the last like 6 months, 6 to 9 months to a year, you really need to go back. You need to watch the contracts playlist, you need to watch the media playlist, you need to watch the Hollywood playlist. There's a lot of playlists you need to watch because those people who've been here for a while know what I'm talking about. We already know this stuff, that these media, who's owned by what, and that China owns like a third or something, or a quarter of the American media. And anyway, so here's some of the things he says. I contend that we are the first race in the world. This is a quote from him directly. And that the more of the world we inhabit, the better it is for the human race. So what he wanted to do was create a red line all the way from Cape Town, which is in South Africa, up to Cairo in Egypt, as put like a railway. So basically his goal was to extend the British Empire, right? So he goes on to say, Why should we not form a secret society with but one object, he once said, the furtherance of the British Empire and the bringing of the whole world under British rule, for the recovery of the United States, for making the Anglo-Saxon race but one empire. But one empire. So let's just take this into account, that this is who we're talking about with Cecil Rhodes. And let's finish on one thing that's very interesting to find out about the man who just so happened to be who L. Ron Hubbard, the father of Scientology, reckons he was in his past life. Well, as one of the things that Cecil did in his scholarship, I think that came out after he wrote in his will, for a Rhodes Scholarship, was that to allow 83 students from the US, Germany, Hong Kong, Bermuda, Zimbabwe, and several Commonwealth countries, etc., to come every year to Oxford University. Now, Oxford University, let me show you guys something rather interesting. Remember this test I told you about that I was given when I went to the Hubbard School of Scientology in Edinburgh? Let's look at what the test is actually titled. Because I've spoken about this and they explained this to me. Look at this, guys. What does this say? The Oxford Capacity Test. Yes, because Oxford was the one who changed the language so that it would be able to be used for other people. And there's a whole thing about that we're going to come back to at another point. So Rhodes has created a scholarship to take people from all over the world to Oxford. And guess one of his most notable, most best well-known scholarships he gave to guess who? None other than former President Bill Clinton. Ladies and gentlemen, I just can't make this stuff up. So here's a little bit of flavor. Here's a little bit of sprinkling. Here's a little bit of context for the person who L. Ron Hubbard, right? L. Ron Hubbard, father of Scientology and Dianetics, which we're going to get into where Dianetics, because now I really get it all now. Like, I'm really there now with it. Now it's like, okay, right? The devil did not want me to make it this far in life. I swear down. Right? So this man, Cecil Rhodes, is who L. Ron Hubbard reckons he was in his past life. And this interview was taken on the very lands in which my mum was born and my dad lived for the most part. Oh, well, actually both of my parents, because Zimbabwe and Zambia. In the very lands where this interview was taken, in the very lands where my grandma was. So when I was telling you people in the last video and probably sounding crazy about all of this stuff that goes on and how I learned a lot of stuff because of where I've come from, which is another thing that I've had to learn because ain't nobody teaching me nothing. So the Lord has had to show me about, do you know what happened where you came from? Do you know what goes on there? Do you know what goes here and there? I'm like, oh, God has taught me a lot. Let's just say that, ladies and gentlemen. So we continue back to this interview that was being done on growing up in Scientology by Adam. Now, he says that Scientology claims that this interview, which we're about to be reviewed, which some of it, the interview I'm going to include, some of it I'm not, some of it's going to be other bits. I'm going to include lots of things. But anyways, he just says that in the interview that happened in Zimbabwe, they claimed that it was a legitimate interview with a legitimate journalist, but in fact, it turns out that realistically, it was actually just the interviewer was another Scientologist, and the questions and answers were entirely scripted. Now, before we get any further, I want to talk about why that is so important to everything that's going to come next. Some of the things are going to come from that interview, some of the things are going to come from other things, right? But I want to talk about why that's so important, because that means that if this is a scripted interview, if everything I'm about to tell you is scripted, is going to help to you guys to see why I'm amplifying the level of heinousness of this man. Or not only the fact that he saw himself like similar to Cecil Rhodes, which I'm just like, Cecil Rhodes, that's not really... Anyway, I digress. Let's get into this, right? So imagine me always having these weird connections to these people, by the way. Anyway, so he talks about how he got into it. So L. Ron Hubbard in the beginning, basically, the way he got into all of this is he liked to observe people. Now, this is what I mean when I say that it's weird how much I relate to these people that I talk about, right? He liked to observe people. So he liked to observe people in all of their different places. So what he was saying in the interview is he would go around the world, and whether they were primitive or cultural. Now, I want to address this primitive or cultural thing, because it's a very colonial type of way of looking at things, because a lot of the colonizers justified their behaviors by saying we need to go and make this place civilized because it's uncivilized. But I can tell you, as somebody who knows for about my own history and ancestry, that actually Zimbabwe used to be the breadbasket of the world. Was it of the world or of Africa? Zimbabwe actually was functioning very well in its own version of society, as a lot of other places in Africa. So what actually happened was, now a lot of places are less civilized. That's because people ain't bossing up and getting rid of the enemies, or at least taking back control, or at least figuring stuff out. They're just now vultures, everyone. Everyone's a freaking vulture now, right? So there were historically, right? Well, obviously these are histories that will never get taught in school. Historically, but I know because I've been taught stuff from my own people that I know, right? For the family members, and also the Lord has directed me into places. Also, crazy story that when I was in London, one of the places that I worked, this is kind of insane, but the guy who worked there, he was this Caribbean man. He had a whole library of African history, African art, like that went back for a very long time. So I used to work, that was actually my office that I used to work in, and I used to do lots of stuff there. I was an event planner for a company that was based there. So yeah, I used to do a lot of stuff there, and it was just insane. I learned so much about the actual history of Africa and all this stuff. So yeah, I've had some experiences in my time, right? So anyway, so there's this whole colonizational thing, and I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not a fan of it. Let everybody in their country sort themselves out. Go sort yourself out where you are. And I feel the same thing right now. That's why I agree with the Americans who are like, why are we always sending all this money away to all these countries and we're not sorting out what's going on here? Same in the UK. Sort your own place out. Have seen what it looks like in the United States in some areas. It's like, you really need to redirect your thoughts. Yeah, you should put your country first. You should put America first. Yeah, you should put Zimbabwe should put Zimbabwe first. Everybody put everybody first. When everybody's in a good place, we all trade together and the world will be a better place, right? Okay. And let people deal with their own problems. Because half the reason, this is how I know they brainwash as well, people, because it's the same colonial vibes when they're trying to say, oh, this country is so defenseless and we need to jump in and help because that's their way of still doing a lot of what they did in the past now. So this is all the person that L. Ron Hubbard is inspired by, or at least is his previous self. Okay, so he wants to go around observing people, right? He's going around and observing people around the world. Oh, the cultural and primitive. So he uses these phrases, cultural and primitive. Cultural meaning people who are civilized. I know that he used his words very strategically, because even the guy, Adam, on his video was saying how over time, his language changed to be more and more English. And I've said this so many times. I think people think I'm crazy. I think the English language is so manipulative. It's perfect for witchcraft because you can find another word to kind of make it seem different, right? We don't say killing babies. We say abortion, right? It's all of these different, or termination of pregnancy, right? There's all these words that if you looked in other languages, you wouldn't sound the same. It wouldn't sound as not so problematic, right? But anyways, so this is where we're at. This is where I'm at. This is where we're at. So he sees... So anyways, he'd been observing this, that, this, and the other. Oh, yes. So that's what I wanted to say. So he basically got to the idea that he believes all humans, whether primitive in their primitive states, including white people, which he laughed, which I thought was weird. And otherwise, he sees all humans as equal. Right. And the first knowledge he ever uncovered was that he was forced to take science. His first knowledge started because he was forced to take maths and science at university, but he wanted to do philosophy. This is just insane, guys. He wanted to find a common denominator in all men. So that was his spiel. That was his thing. Right. And he made a good point that I made yesterday, which he was saying that he believes men are spirits, that we came down from this. Well, okay, this we don't agree with. What we agree with is that for 2,000 years, a man was considered spirit, and for only about a couple hundred centuries, now we're just considered these animals or pretty much a blob of mud, right? That I agree with. What I don't agree with is he said, how did he say this? Actually, no. He says he sees man as these spiritual beings being pulled down to the material, so which we'll get into what that means, because again, let me just get to something right now before we even go further. This video is going to have to, I don't know what I'm going to have to do, but anyway, let me get to the point before I get to the point, getting to the point that I need to get to, right? the thing about him, and this is the thing I've realized is a benefit to me from being so deeply anchored in God, is I can hear when I hear a truth that is nearly so close to what it's supposed to be, but it isn't. That's why I am such a diehard believer in the Bible. That is why I'm such a diehard believer in the Bible, because literally it will help you to swerve when that little bit of extraness that's not real truth is there, which you guys will see what I mean, because a lot of what L. Ron Hubbard says, he knows how to say the right things so that you can't really go against what he's saying, because you have to agree with what he's saying. So like he'll say stuff like he doesn't see his religion as better than his other religions. He just sees his religion as a religion that works. It's a religion of religions. Like, this is what they do. Like, well, Scientology, it's not even it's a doingness. It's a doingness. And oh gosh, anyway. And by the way, so much of what he said is exactly what this guy interviewing me was saying. And I'll let you guys know when we get to those parts. I don't know how we're going to do this. Discovered the common denominator. So he discovered that the common denominator amongst all men around the world, whether cultural or primitive, right, is that they had a desire to survive, right? They discovered the common denominator was to survive, and then he decided to look at the various methods that they used for survival. Now, here's what he concluded that I find truly fascinating, because somebody who wants to create true destruction in a 99.9999 recurring percent truth, right? And by the way, I always say the nines out loud because I want you guys to really feel the breadth of what I'm trying to say about how the smallest amount of lie will create destruction, right? That is why God has to be perfect. That is why whatever is the God figure has to be 100% perfect, because anything past that means that contamination can happen, right? Okay, so he concluded that man advanced to the degree to which he preserved spiritual integrity and values and remained honest and was decent. That's when man advances. Man disintegrated or deteriorated, the more he abandoned these things, the more evil they did. Sorry that I keep making mistakes, because I was writing so fast that my writing is ugly right here. But yeah, so first of all, yeah, I would normally agree with that. I do agree with that. But that's not what he's doing. And that's what you guys are going to figure out, because fast forward to what he's actually doing. Turns out, spoiler alert, we're going to get there. Actually, should we get there now? No, I'm going to keep you guys interested. Let's just remember that this is what he said is what he's doing. We're not going to get this done in one day, because there's no way. There's no way I'm even going to just be able to talk just about Ron in one video. Okay. So then he goes on to talk about this interviewer was asking him questions, right? And obviously these are strategic questions that people ask so that he can creatively answer them in the perfect exact way in order to be able to make sure that whatever else is being said, and what I find, whatever else is being said, people can refer back to this. But the irony is that this interview was actually taken down in the end, if you can imagine. So this guy who managed to find it was kind of a huge deal that he found it, right? So anyways, and this is a big thing that I want to actually highlight about all of this, is the strategy. In fact, I'm not even going to read past here because I don't want to rush through it, and I want to let it all. Oh, guys, there's so much to unpack here. There's like I don't know how I lived all this. Anyway, God had me in the right priorities. God first, right? No, but on a serious note though, the thing that I'm saying, the reason why I'm saying I feel like he's worse than a cult leader, right, is because what I feel like he did is do a giant experiment. He basically went around the world, and it was demeanor in the interview that was the best, because he would like kind of laugh and walk around, and he would look straight into the camera at certain points. Like he was enjoying that he was like, it was like he was enjoying that he was creating this lie that he knew he was telling people. Like that was the vibe that I was getting off it. Like he was enjoying like that he like, because this is what ends up happening with Kingdom of Darkness, right? Eventually they can't help but like look like they're enjoying, like when Hillary Clinton was like laughing, doing whatever, like they can't help but hint that they're enjoying exactly the amount that people are believing what they are saying, right? And you see it happening subtly a lot of the time in the world, right? And so my thing is to see how well he planned this, right? He starts off, he's around the world and he's observing things about people. He writes a paper, he writes a book, the Dianetics book, which the Dianetics book was the first book, which is basically him writing what he figured out when he he observed humans around the world, because somebody asked him, like, can you please write what you discovered when you around the world when you had observed humans. That's how he came up with the Dianetics book, which is the one that I just the DVD thing that I was showing you guys that I got yesterday, right? Yeah, so he had been asked to write a book about his observations of man, and this was called Dianetics, and it was a New York bestseller. Can you imagine? So he hadn't included the spiritual element, right? Because then he realized that he thinks spirits and spiritual people, that humans are really spirits. So that's where Scientology came from. Because Scientology, and let me tell you what Scientology actually means. Let's just get straight to the point. Where is it? Guys, I wrote too many notes, and I should have double stapled this. Then it would be easier for me to flick through right now. Anyways, we'll learn for next time. No, it's not here. Basically, it's a, what is it? He says he believes that philosophy is senior to the religion. Sorry, I'm just reading some of the things that this man has said. And yeah, and it gets crazy, by the way, because a lot of it, what is it? Why do I make notes if I can't find what I'm looking for? Literally. Anyways, so pretty much, oh yeah, because I want to talk about this because it goes back to Cambridge. But anyways, so Scientology had to include the spiritual element, right? Because even though it doesn't have anything to do with spirit in the name, which I was going to say, oh, for goodness sake, Nyasha, like seriously, I am so irritated with myself right now. I cannot deal. What is a spirit? Scientology, Oxford. Maybe could I have lost it altogether? I don't have time to waste right now. Okay, here it is. Knowledge. Okay, he says Scientology means the knowledge of truth, or the study of the knowledge of truth, which to me suggests the knowledge of the tree of good and evil, right? And I'm going to tell you exactly why in this video, and I'm going to have to unpack it all for the next however long. According to Oxford, he says, it means I know the word. Then he goes on to say, if you don't know yourself, you don't know anything. We're not going to come to that. Let's go back to the study of the knowledge of truth. Let me just tell you guys how this all ends. Let me tell you what Adam revealed is what happens. So at the basis level, people sign up to Scientology because you're told that you have this reactive mind, that it reacts to everything that you can't see it. It's what you would call your subconscious, and it affects how you act because from your pain and your trauma, yada, 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 all that pain and trauma affects you. And then what happens is you act on, you change your behavior as a result of that, which means you're not able to live the life you want to live. So come to Scientology. We're going to help you work through all that stuff. It's not therapy. It's to help you to reintegrate, to deal with those things and go through what they call auditing and processing in order to remove those memories, in order to be able to increase your IQ, they say, and also progress in life, because he believes that men should be free. I'm not even going to get into I should get into what he believes. I might do a part 2. Anyway, he believes that men, and that we are good overall. That's the other thing, that we're mainly good. It's just that we do the wrong because of the things that have happened to us, but we're mainly good, right? Which I'm not even going to start getting into that in this, right? And so basically then he's saying, oh, so what we're going to do, what it leads to is that the first most traumatic event you ever had was being born. This is what it's actually about. This is what it ends up becoming. So then they do all this therapy stuff that they do, these weird machine things where they take you into what I believe is the spiritual world, into the demonic kingdom. They take you back. They have you doing all this stuff to remove the memories. But then guess what happens? When you get to that point, what ends up happening is then you go to the next level. This is the level that they tell everybody. So this is public news. When it goes to the next level, now it's like, oh, by the way, and you're called a Thetan? There's all spirits called Thetans that came down from somewhere else and were on earth as prisoners because of some of the bad decisions we made. Again, not being specific. What I like about the Bible in terms of what went wrong is God is extremely specific and lets us know exactly what was happening and exactly what went wrong. So things just happened, right? And then we came here and we've been imprisoned. And now we're imprisoned, right, in these bodies, right? We're spiritual beings. We created everything because there is no one God. In Scientology, there's all these gods, that we're all a part of the supreme being God or whatever, right? Anyway, so when you now have gone all the way back to your childhood and you think now at that point you're supposed to be, have total clarity and be totally free or something like that. Because I remember this is what even the guy, when I went to the Edinburgh thing, was telling me, that this is what we can help you to achieve. Total whatever. And what is it? What is it? Like total... It's like total clarity and freedom or something. Anyways, we won't get into it because we're going to get into it on another point. But anyways, you're supposed to basically get to the point that everybody's trying to get to, right? Is in like the point where you've overcome everything, so now nothing can stop you, because the only reason anything was stopping you, the only reason you had to be imprisoned with this is because you went through all of these things and yada yada yada. But joke's on you, because what happens afterwards, which is so I discovered courtesy of this Adam guy, was that there's just always another level. So now you were just the only being that had all these things, but now there's all these other beings that are attached to you that you couldn't see before because you couldn't see them because you hadn't dealt with your thing. And then when you get to that level and you've done that, then there's another level of these things, and then it all goes back to this flipping alien god called Xenu and all this stuff. And what am I trying to say? And the point is that it keeps going to the point where there is not an end. There is no end to you dealing with everything. And even when you get to the highest level that's in existence, as far as what Adam said, the point of you getting there is so that you realize, oh, I'm not any of those things, because none of those things actually happen to you. You're not any of those things. So now, because you know who you're not, now you can figure out who you are. This is how, after you've gotten past the levels of what the common people, what we see, all the way at the top. This is exactly the trip and the trick of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I've said it 100,000 times, guys. The enemy loves to get us into these things where we are in this endless, infinite pursuit of knowledge. Because if you're in an endless, ongoing, infinite pursuit of knowledge, it means you will never arrive. And this is, the Bible even talks about this. You'll never arrive to anything. You'll just seek that for the rest of your life and then die. And then the devil will laugh at you and be like, look at you, you fool. And Jesus will be like, I was trying to tell you that you just have to receive me. And then even if you don't gain any more knowledge for the rest of your life, you will be with me in the Father in heaven. You have abundance now. We're going to work. Do you know what I love about God? God, as long as I've known him, he works on me and my own issues, because I have plenty of issues, right? As we're going, there is no like, oh, because that's how a lot of, let me just help some religious folks out there, right? A lot of Christians and a lot of religions will make it seem like you can only do this once you've arrived. I've definitely dealt with that. And in fact, the very first time that me and God really had a serious relationship as an adult is when I said to God, I go, you know what, God, I'm just going to talk to you regardless of whether I feel like I have the right, or I'm able, I'm worthy to talk to you. And then boom. Then our relationship started to change. Do you see what I'm saying? And then even now, God is doing stuff in my life, but God is still working on me behind the scenes, guys. I'm still doing work. I'm still in therapy with the Lord. I'm still in school with the Lord. And that's the beauty, because God is like, I'm not trying to take you to some place down the road over there forever for you to finally arrive, for you to finally figure out your life. It's like, no, we deal, we do, and then we restore, and then we build, and then we continue. You climb, maintain, you keep going, right? You keep building, you keep growing. We're not waiting for 100 years. We're not waiting for you to fast for 10 years and 30 years and then go off to do whatever. No, because even Hubbard, he was like, the practitioners who do the auditing, he was like, well, they only take about a year in normal people's terms. But in terms of like the amount of knowledge they gain and the amount of hours, I mean, it's really intense training. They do like 12 years in like a year or two. I'm just like, what are we doing here? And that's the point I want to get to. This is why I think this is heinous, because he's actually perfectly packaged the exact problematic decision of the Garden of Eden, and he's disguised it under, you just have stuff that we're going to help you deal with that stuff, because it's true, you have stuff to deal with. It's true that we are spiritual beings. All this stuff is true, but it's that little lies in there that is going to stop you. And then by the time you're already in it, you can't get out. So when they're telling you that you need to go and get rid of all these other Thetans that came from Xenu in this other that was a galactic leader, whatever his name was, right? You don't believe it. You're too far in. And I keep saying this to you guys, that the enemy gets you into a contract or gets you into things before you, and you're too far in and you can't get out. And then by the time you realize what it is, you're done. And that's why he's genius. He's genius for thinking of this billion contract. And it's real, which we're going to talk about it, by the way, guys, because it's real. They talk about it on the Scientology website, Scientology.org. It's there. Do you know what I'm saying? So this is my point. This endless pursuit of knowledge. You think you've arrived. No, you haven't arrived. Oh, you think you've arrived. No, you haven't arrived. You think it's enough. No, it's not enough. And didn't I just say in the other video about how the feeling of not being good enough? And do you know what they do as well? When you are having issues or something, they'll be like, oh yeah, the auditing isn't working. Or like if they see that, oh, you must be hiding something. You must be hiding some bad behaviors behind the scenes. It's literally giving pharisaical. It's literally giving religion. Like, oh, if your life isn't changing, if you're not going forward, we're just going to blame you like the narcissists we are because I'm a child of Satan and my name is L1 Hubbard. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, you need to stick around for this series. You need to stick around because there's so much to unpack about Scientology, guys. And literally, I now know I'm the perfect person to talk about this. Like, I'm the perfect person because there's so many things, and especially with the connections that were happening. I was just like, I get it now. I get why God, I get why these random things. This is why I don't believe in coincidences. Anyways, if life's a game, let's play to win. God bless you all. And I'll see you in my next one.